to Activate 3. We're going to take 5 paragraph translations that use a lot of what we've done so far. This structure includes the present tense, modal verbs, the simple past, also known as the preterite, the present progressive, the past progressive, and this idea of was going to. So in these paragraphs, we're going to mix all of those possibilities together. We'll begin by going through each paragraph and analyzing it, identifying the structure that's underneath it, and then we'll translate it into Spanish. Now remember, every paragraph that you'll see is well within your power to translate into Spanish. All we have to do is add in the missing vocabulary. And just like in level 5, it's very important that you master this module before you move any more forward with the course. If you find that there are things you've forgotten or things that you don't understand, it's a sign that you need to go back and redo those lessons or those modules or even that entire level again. Once you've completed this module, make sure that you download and print out the PDF that goes along with it. I want you to practice the translations until you can do each one on your own without too much trouble. At that stage, you once again have the green light from me to continue with the rest of the course. Now remember, we must always use what we've learned. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have any value. We must put into action what we are learning in the course. Our first paragraph reads as follows. My wife was looking after our son and I was preparing dinner. We were going to eat and then watch a movie together. I love to cook when I'm home. It's a kind of therapy for me. I turned off the stove and got the plates out. My wife turned off the TV because we always eat as a family at the table. While we were eating, the phone rang, but we decided not to answer it. Our time together as a family is more important. Let's begin by analyzing this. We have a lot of the past progressive here, a lot of background description. For example, in a visual sense, it was, my wife was looking after our son. I was preparing dinner. We were going to eat, then watch a movie. So all of this first part here is all background. It's describing the scene. Nothing in the simple past has actually happened yet. In the next phrase, we have modal verb structure. So I love to cook when I'm at home. And then this piece, it's a kind of therapy for me. After that, we finally get into some simple past, some actions. So I turned off the stove. That's done. And then I got the plates out. That again is a completed action. It would look like this. So we have all of this background as a horizontal line. This is what was happening. And now the action. This action, I turned off the stove. And then a second action after that, I got out the plates. Remember, when you're going through these translations, it's important that you're seeing these past tenses in that visual way. It then continues with my wife turned off the TV. So this is another action because we always eat as a family at the table. Now look at this. While we were eating, this is more past progressive. The phone rang. This is simple past. This is something that happened. And now another simple past. We decided not to answer it. It goes back then into our time together as a family is more important. So back into the present tense. You can see what I was talking about in the introduction, in that when we tell stories or speak in paragraphs in this way, we're going to be using a mixture of all of these different tenses together. In the last part, visually, you can see it like this. So while we were eating, this is what was going on. These two things happened. The phone rang, and then we decided not to answer it. Let's look at the vocabulary next. We have the word for wife, which is esposa. If you change it to esposo, it would be husband. And then the verb to look after is cuidar. And we're going to add a after it. So cuidar a. Son would be hijo. And then dinner would be cena, la cena. Next we have this thing here of and then. In Spanish they'll say and after. So it would be y luego. And for the verb to watch, we'll simply use the verb ver, to see a movie together. The word here for together is juntos. If it was two females, it would be juntas, but because it's husband and wife, juntos. Next, the verb to cook is cocinar. And then this phrase, it's a kind of therapy for me. In Spanish, they would say it's a type of therapy. So, un tipo de terapia. The verb to turn off is apagar, and the noun for the stove, the cooker, the oven is estufa, la estufa. Now, when you need to get something out or throw something out, take something out, all of that is expressed with the verb sacar in Spanish. And the noun for plate would be plato. That's nice and easy. Then TV is televisión. You'll also hear them shorten this to tele. By the way, they'll do that also with movie. So instead of película, you'll often hear simply peli. We have peli and tele. But let's stick with the full words for this translation. Now, to ring is a verb we've encountered before. We're going to use sonar. And of course, to decide, decidir. And when you answer something like answer the phone or answer the door, the verb is contestar. So now, theoretically, you should have all of the structure you need and all of the vocabulary that you need to make a really decent go of translating this paragraph into Spanish. Pause the video now and let's see how well you can do. We'll go through it together now. First of all, my wife, mi esposa, was looking after. Here we have past progressive. So estaba, and the verb is cuidar. So estaba cuidando a. All of this, estaba cuidando a. Now, son is hijo, our son, nuestro hijo. And I was preparing, more past progressive. And I feel like I want to emphasize this by saying yo. Y yo estaba preparando. Then we have dinner, which would be la cena. Now again, more background. We were going to eat. This is íbamos a comer. And then be, and after that, y luego, watch a movie. So, see a movie together, ver una película juntos. Next up, we have modal verb structure. So, I love to cook. Me encanta cocinar. Let's make this a capital. When I'm home. Remember this lesson before where we say in English when I'm at home or at the party, at the supermarket. In Spanish, they will say when I'm in home or in the supermarket, in the party. So it's important to remember that because it does come up a lot. So, cuando estoy, because this is location, en casa. When I'm literally in home. Then we have our phrase, it's a kind of therapy for me. In Spanish, you will say it's a type of therapy for me. So, es un tipo de terapia para mí. Then we have I turned off, and the verb is apagar. Now this is simple past because somebody actually did turn off the stove. It's done. The action is done. So we have that vertical line coming down. So this is going to go to apagué la estufa. And notice the spelling here. So it's going to take the UE to hold up this sound, apagué. Then la estufa. And got the plates out. This is another action. This was done. It was started. You know, I opened the cupboard door. I got the plates. It's done. The action is completed. So sacar, again, will go to saqué. Simple past. Notice again here the spelling. QUE. Y saqué los platos. So got the plates out, took the plates out, took the plates down. It's all covered with this verb of sacar. Y saqué los platos. Although here you can see that there's some variation in the spelling, in the sound it's really the same. So when you're speaking, you don't have to worry about it. It's only in writing that occasionally you will get with some verbs this change in spelling here. So apagué and saqué. Now we have that same verb to turn off, but this time it's from the angle of my wife. So we're going to have, again, mi esposa. Now we have her angle, right? So this is going to be apagó. And nothing strange here will happen with the spelling. We'll take all of this. So we have apagó la tele or la televisión. Because we always eat as a family. The only thing to watch out here for is that they wouldn't necessarily say como una familia. More commonly, you'll hear simply como familia. So let's put all that in. So, porque, siempre, we always. Now to eat, comer, so comemos, present tense, como familia. At the table, again, look at this at. It's going to be in the table, en la mesa. Now we have more past progressive. So this is what was going on while we were eating. So mientras estábamos comiendo. This thing happened. This is simple past. So el teléfono sonó. Then another simple past because a decision was made. We weren't thinking about a decision, we made a decision. And there's the difference. But we decided. Pero decidimos. The verb is decidir. Not to answer it or to not answer it. No contestarlo. Now the word for time is tiempo. So our time, nuestro tiempo. Together as a family, juntos, como familia. Notice again, I'm repeating that same lesson as before. So instead of como una familia, simply nuestro tiempo, juntos, como familia. Going to leave out the A. Is more important. Es más importante. And there we have our translation. So reading through it, we have mi esposa estaba cuidando a nuestro hijo y yo estaba preparando la cena. Íbamos a comer y luego ver una película juntos. Me encanta cocinar cuando estoy en casa. Es un tipo de terapia para mí. Apagué la estufa y saqué los platos. Mi esposa apagó la televisión porque siempre comemos como familia en la mesa. Mientras estábamos comiendo, el teléfono sonó, pero decidimos no contestarlo. Nuestro tiempo juntos como familia es más importante. Now we'll switch some angles. So we have his wife was looking after their son and he was preparing dinner. Notice I've underlined he there because I want you to make it explicit. Continues with, they were going to eat and then watch a movie together. He loves to cook when he's at home. It's a kind of therapy for him. He turned off the stove and got the plates out. His wife turned off the TV because they always eat as a family at the table. While they were eating, the phone rang, but they decided not to answer it. Their time together as a family is more important. So again, pause and see how well you can translate it. I want you to treat these as a pair, especially when you download the PDF. You're going to practice doing the one that we've already been through together, but also this slight variation here where we mix up the angles. So the paragraph would read, su esposa estaba cuidando a su hijo y él estaba preparando la cena. Iban a comer y luego ver una película juntos. Le encanta cocinar cuando está en casa. Es un tipo de terapia para él. Apagó la estufa y sacó los platos. Su esposa apagó la tele o la televisión porque siempre comen como familia en la mesa. Mientras estaban comiendo, el teléfono sonó, pero decidieron no contestarlo. Su tiempo juntos como familia es más importante. If you got something like this wrong, from decidir going to decidieron, it's a sign that you need to go back and to review how we conjugate verbs into the simple past. These are the types of things that I want you to be looking out for. In other words, weaknesses in your Spanish which you need to go back and strengthen. Let's have a look at the second paragraph. It reads, I'm waiting at the entrance and it's raining a lot. As usual, I forgot to bring my umbrella, so I know I'm going to have to wait here a long time. While I'm watching the traffic and the people outside, I start to think about what happened last night and about the call I received from my brother. He's a good person, but he's very unhappy. I would like to do something to be able to help him, but he's too proud to accept my help. He only wants to talk. He never wants to listen. As you can see, we're beginning with background information, but this is not the past progressive, it's actually the present progressive, because we're saying, I am waiting, and it is raining. We can visualize it in this way. So again, we have horizontal lines describing the scene, describing the picture. Then we have our first simple past, I forgot. So again, this would be represented with this vertical arrow here. So I forgot my umbrella. This is a piece of action. So I know I'm going to have to wait here a long time. This is all modal verb structure. Now we have while I'm watching the traffic. This gives us another horizontal line. So I'm watching the traffic, the people outside, and I'm thinking about what happened last night and the call that I received. So this thing happening, this event, and the fact that I received a call, they're both in the simple past, actions that happened. The next thing that catches my interest is that we have he is a good person, he is very unhappy. So we're going to have to make choices here between ser and estar. After that, I would like to do something. This is all modal verb structure. And here in the last line is all, again, in the present tense. So here you can see something very different about the structure when compared to the first paragraph, in that we have the present progressive and not the past progressive. We're mixing the present progressive with the simple past. Again, you can see that you have many options when it comes to mixing and matching tenses inside of paragraphs in Spanish. Looking at the vocabulary then, we have the entrance, which is la entrada, and then the verb to rain is llover. This is something that we've used before, but I just put it in anyway. Then we have as usual. There are a few different ways that you can express this in Spanish, but we're going to use como siempre, which would literally mean like always. Then the verb to forget is olvidar, and the verb to bring is traer. Now look at the word for umbrella. It literally means for water. You can see para agua, but the pronunciation is paraguas, and it ends as though it were plural, but the umbrella would actually be el paraguas. There's a whole group of words in Spanish that do this, and it's something that we'll go through later on in the course. But for now, umbrella is el paraguas. Now next up, we're going to need the verb to watch. And once again, we're going to go with observar, because that's what you're doing. You're watching the traffic and the people outside, but Spanish will regard this as observing the traffic and the people outside. Then the word for outside is afuera. And next we're going to need the verb to start, which is empezar, and we're going to follow that with a. To think, the verb is pensar, and for something to happen is actually pasar, for something to pass, an event to pass. So to happen, we're going to use this one here, pasar. Next we have the call, which is la llamada. Easy to remember because we have llamar, to call, and la llamada, the call. Then for brother, it's hermano. If you said hermana, it would be sister. The word for person is persona. And unhappy is infeliz. So feliz, happy, infeliz, unhappy. The word for proud, right here, is going to be orgulloso. So we have orgulloso, or of course, orgullosa, if we were speaking about a female or yourself as a female. To accept, I didn't put it in because it's easy, aceptar, and help as a noun would be la ayuda. Finally, we need the verb to listen, which is escuchar. One thing I want to drill down is here, I start. And the verb is empezar. So you might be tempted to do this. Simply get rid of the ending and add an o. So you would get a kind of a sound of empezo. Now, it's kind of a rough, harsh sound. So for that reason, Spanish will actually put in an I here to make it softer. So you would get empiezo. Empiezo a. That would mean I start. Pause here now and attempt to do the translation on your own, and then we'll come back and do it together. Alright, so let's see how well we can do. First we have I'm waiting. The verb to wait is esperar. So estoy esperando, present progressive. Then we have at the entrance. You can see the same things repeating in Spanish. This is how we learn them. So we know that at the house or at the party, at the entrance. In Spanish they will say in the entrance, in the party, in the house. So we have en la entrada. Estoy esperando en la entrada. And it's raining a lot. More present progressive. Y está lloviendo mucho. Now, as usual, we're going to use como siempre, like always. Let me drag this back here. So, como siempre. I forgot to bring my umbrella. So the verb olvidar, to forget. I forgot. Olvidé. Get rid of the ending and replace it with an E with an accent. So olvidé is I forgot. And then the verb to bring, traer. So let's get this much. Olvidé, traer. Now my umbrella, mi paraguas. The word so, we can go with entonces or así que, either one is fine. Let's use entonces. This could also mean therefore. I forgot to bring my umbrella, therefore I know that. We haven't put it here in English, but if it's implied, we must put it in Spanish. So, sé que voy a, let's do this much. Now, to have to, this is the full verb, the infinitive. So, voy a tener que. To wait here, esperar aquí. Notice here we have three verbs in a row. Voy a, tener que, esperar. Now, a long time, you might be tempted to say for a long time, but we're simply going to put in mucho tiempo. The reason is because the verb esperar means to wait, but it also means to wait for. So the for is already included inside the meaning of the verb. So we have olvidé traer mi paraguas, entonces sé que voy a tener que esperar aquí mucho tiempo. Now we have more background information. So while I'm watching the traffic, mientras estoy observando el tráfico, and the people outside. So outside is afuera, and the people is la gente. So el tráfico y la gente afuera. I start. Here's where we have, instead of empezar, empezo, it's going to split into empiezo. Just a softer, nicer sound for the pronunciation. So, empiezo a pensar. I start to think. We've got our M here. Here for about, you could say de, sobre. Let's go with sobre. Now, what happened? To happen is pasar. And this is an action in the past. It's the simple past because it's over. This thing happened. So in the simple past, this would go to pasó. And then will be ¿qué pasó? What happened? Sobre ¿qué pasó? Last night is anoche. You could also say ayer en la noche, yesterday in the night. Either way is fine. And about the call I received from my brother. At this point here, it sounds nice to simply put in en. So we have, I start to think about what happened last night and in the call I received. This is how most native speakers would actually say it. So the call is la llamada. I received from my brother. In English, we could also say about the call that I received from my brother. So again, we must put it in Spanish. So, y en la llamada que recibir is the verb. So recibí, I received. Again, simple past. From my brother, de mi hermano. Now we change to a different structural question because we have he is a good person. So are we going to say es una buena persona or está una buena persona? If we used, let's do both. So first of all, está una buena persona. What we would be expressing here is that he's kind of temporarily a good person right now in this moment. But I don't think that's what we really want to say. So by using ser, meaning es una buena persona, we're saying that in general, this is how we see him. That being in general a good person is part of his identity. So we go with es una buena persona. Then we have, but he's very unhappy. Again, if you put, we'll say, go back to this one, pero está muy infeliz. Infeliz. Then again, you would be saying that kind of right now or at this point in time, recently, at the moment this is going on, that he's unhappy. If you switch to es muy infeliz, then again, this would be belonging now to his identity, that most of the time you see him in general as being an unhappy person. So both are correct. It just depends which one, which meaning you want to convey. It all depends upon what you are visualizing in your mind. So we're going to keep it on the ser for both sides. Now to finish up, we have a lot of modal verb structure. So I would like to do something. So me gustaría. To be able to, the verb is poder. I would like to be able to. Me gustaría poder. To help him. Again, we have 3 verbs in a row here. So me gustaría poder ayudarle. Let's do it in English. This is I would like to be able to help him. But he's too proud. Here again we have a choice between ser or estar. And I'm guessing that we're seeing that him being too proud is part of his identity. How we're seeing him in general is that he's too proud to accept any help from me. So for that reason, we'll again go with es. So, pero es demasiado. And then we have our verb for proud, orgulloso. In order to accept my help. So, para aceptar mi ayuda. Now we have more modal verb structure. So he only wants to talk. This only would come at the front. So solo quiere hablar. And then he never wants to listen. The word never would again come at the front. So nunca quiere escuchar. So we'll put a full stop here, and now there are two little things that I would like to add to this. They're things that we haven't covered in the course yet. We will do in due time. The first thing is that we need an a here. So it would be mientras estoy observando el tráfico y a la gente afuera. This is called the personal a. And I'm going to do a dedicated lesson on this so that you can learn how to do it or when you should put it in. The second thing, or the little problem we have, is here. Because in English it's reading, I start to think about what happened. Now, whenever in English you can say the thing that happened, that's a trigger for when you're going to put in lo que. Instead of que, it will go to lo que. So this is literally saying, I start to think about the thing that happened. So, empiezo a pensar sobre lo que pasó anoche. This is something that, again, we will do a dedicated lesson on. The first time through I didn't put it in simply because we hadn't covered it yet. But just to be absolutely correct in the paragraph, we'll put them in now. Let's switch angles now so that you can try the translation from a different point of view. It reads, she's waiting at the entrance and it's raining a lot. As usual, she forgot to bring her umbrella, so she knows that she's going to have to wait there a long time. While she's watching the traffic and the people outside, she starts to think about what happened last night and about the call she received from her brother. He's a good person, but he's very unhappy. She would like to do something to be able to help him, but he's too proud to accept her help. He only wants to talk, he never wants to listen. Está esperando en la entrada y está lloviendo mucho. Como siempre, olvidó traer su paraguas. Entonces, sabe que va a tener que esperar allí mucho tiempo. Mientras se está observando el tráfico y a la gente afuera, empieza a pensar sobre lo que pasó anoche y en la llamada que recibió de su hermano. Es una buena persona, pero es muy infeliz. Le gustaría hacer algo para poder ayudarle, pero es demasiado orgulloso para aceptar su ayuda. Solo quiere hablar, nunca quiere escuchar. We'll change angles once more. Now it is we're waiting at the entrance, and it's raining a lot. As usual, we forgot to bring our umbrella, so we know we're going to have to wait here a long time. While we're watching the traffic and the people outside, we start to talk about what happened last night and about the call we received from our sister. She's a good person, but she's very unhappy. We would like to do something to be able to help her, but she's too proud to accept our help. She only wants to talk. She never wants to listen. Estamos esperando en la entrada y está lloviendo mucho. Como siempre, olvidamos traer nuestro paraguas. Entonces, sabemos que vamos a tener que esperar aquí mucho tiempo. Mientras estamos observando el tráfico y a la gente afuera, empezamos a hablar sobre lo que pasó anoche y en la llamada que recibimos de nuestra hermana. Es una buena persona, pero es muy infeliz. Nos gustaría hacer algo para poder ayudarle, pero es demasiado orgullosa para aceptar nuestra ayuda. Solo quiere hablar, nunca quiere escuchar. So now you have 3 versions to practice, and this will be all in the PDF to download. So we will translate from the viewpoint of I, from the viewpoint of she, and from the viewpoint of we. Now here's our third paragraph. I was driving to work. There wasn't much traffic and I was listening to the radio. I was going to stop for a coffee, but inside there were a lot of people waiting. So I decided to keep going. Normally I drive very carefully, but this morning I must admit that I wasn't paying attention and I crashed and hurt myself while trying to overtake another car. It's going to be very embarrassing to admit to everyone what happened. Once again, you can see we have a mixture of background information that describes the scene, plus definite actions. Let's take a look at the vocabulary first. So we have to drive to. Well, to drive is manejar, and this idea of driving to somewhere, in Spanish what they'll often say is driving towards somewhere. That's why we have this word hacia here. Make sure that the stress is over the A, hacia. So to drive to is to drive towards, manejar hacia. Then the verb to listen to, escuchar. It's important that this to, or important to note, that this to is included in the verb, so there's no need to put it in Spanish. Then the radio is actually la radio. To stop for would be parar por. Here the meaning of por is the reason why you're stopping. So in this example, I was going to stop for a coffee. So the coffee is the reason why we were going to stop. And this is why we will use por here. Then inside is adentro, the verb to decide, decidir. And then to keep going, seguir adelante. Seguir on its own as a verb has a lot of uses, a lot of different uses. But one of the main ones is this idea of to continue. So to keep going is to continue, kind of moving forward. To keep going forward, seguir adelante. Now, very carefully, what they will literally say in Spanish is with a lot of care. So, con mucho cuidado. Then to pay attention, we have prestar atención. Then we have to crash, chocar. To hurt or to injure, lastimar. To try, tratar de. And then to pass, meaning to overtake someone on the road, is rebasar, and you'll follow that with a. Then finally, the word for embarrassing can be embarazoso or embarazosa, depending on what you are referring to. In theory now, you should have enough information to make a decent effort at this translation. So pause the video and see how well you can do. Alright, so let's go through it together. This time around, I'm not going to type it out. I'm simply going to talk my way through the translation. And this is what I would like you to start copying, start trying to do the same thing yourself. So first of all, we have I was driving to work. So I was, estaba, and I was driving, estaba manejando. Now we have towards work. So hacia el trabajo. Literally, I was driving towards the work. These are little things that you just have to get used to in Spanish because there's no real literal equivalent for them in English. So once again, we have estaba manejando hacia el trabajo. There wasn't much traffic. So no había mucho tráfico. And I was listening to the radio. So y estaba escuchando la radio. I was going to. This is a modal verb, so iba. And then to stop for, parar por un café. So iba parar por un café. But inside, there were a lot of people. So we have pero adentro había mucha gente. Has to be mucha, right? Because gente is la gente. Then we have waiting, so we're just going to use esperando on its own. So adentro había mucha gente esperando. Now the word so can be entonces or así que, either one is fine. Now we have some action. This is actually the first piece of definitive action so far. All the rest up to now has just been background information. So I decided, I made a decision. So decidí to keep going, seguir adelante. The word for normally is normalmente. And then we have the present tense here, I drive. So manejar would go to manejo. Normalmente manejo, very carefully, con mucho cuidado. But this morning, pero esta mañana, I must admit, tengo que admitir that I wasn't paying attention. So here we have this was with an ing. So no estaba prestando atención. Prestar will go to prestando. So no estaba prestando atención. Now we have another piece of action here. I crashed. So the verb is chocar. An AR verb, this will go to choqué. And hurt myself. This again is another concrete piece of action. So lastimar is the verb. This will go to lastimé. And we have myself. So y me lastimé, for I hurt myself while trying to overtake another car. So mientras estaba tratando de rebasar otro coche. Let's do that entire sentence again. So we have choqué y me lastimé mientras estaba tratando de rebasar otro coche. Next up, we have modal verb structure. So it's going to be very embarrassing. It's going to be bar ser. Very embarrassing. Muy embarazoso. Or if you're female, you'll say muy embarazosa. To admit, admitir. And then to everyone, you can say a todos or a todo el mundo. Either way is correct. Then we have what happened. It would be lo que pasó. So to happen is pasar, and happened in the past as the simple past pasó. And then remember that when this what means or can be translated as the thing that happened. So it's going to be very embarrassing to admit to everyone the thing that happened. So this what could also be kind of substituted for the thing that. And when you get that inference in English, it's a trigger for lo que in Spanish. So, va a ser muy embarazoso admitir a todos lo que pasó. Now I realize that's obviously a long translation, so I've written it out for you all here on this slide. What I've basically done here is given you an example of how I would like you to start trying to approach translations like these. Remember that in the real world, when you're on your own in front of native Spanish speakers, you won't be able to have this luxury of writing things down and working it out on paper. All the work will be done mentally inside your mind in that moment. That's why it's important that we start training for that reality now while we're learning. Notice also that I wasn't trying to go fast. I was taking it step by step. And again, this is a habit that I would like you to copy. Don't be concerned with speed at this stage. Just be concerned with getting the structure right. Now again, if you'd like to pause and try to do that on your own, I think that would be a good idea, and we'll come back and go through it once more before going into the next paragraph. Alright, so let's do it in one go now from start to finish, and my speed here is going to be as though I were working it out step by step. So we have estaba manejando hacia el trabajo. No había mucho tráfico y estaba escuchando la radio. Iba a parar por un café, pero adentro había mucha gente esperando. Entonces decidí seguir adelante. Normalmente manejo con mucho cuidado, pero esta mañana tengo que admitir que no estaba prestando atención. Choqué y me lastimé mientras estaba tratando de rebasar otro coche. Va a ser muy embarazoso o embarazosa admitir a todos lo que pasó. Next up, we have that same paragraph, but I've changed the angle to they. Notice down here I've given you a little bit of extra help. For the phrase hurt themselves would be se lastimaron. Now try to translate the rest yourself. Estaban manejando hacia el trabajo. No había mucho tráfico y estaban escuchando la radio. Iban a parar por un café, pero adentro había mucha gente esperando. Entonces decidieron seguir adelante. Normalmente manejan con mucho cuidado, pero esta mañana no estaban prestando atención. Chocaron y se lastimaron mientras estaban tratando de rebasar a otro coche. Va a ser muy embarazoso admitir a todos lo que pasó. Remember, if you are getting conjugations wrong, such as here with decidieron or here with chocaron, these are signs that you need to go back and review those simple past modules. We also had this example here where we had to conjugate into the present tense for they. So manejar went to manejan. I know that this type of conjugation is harder work than when we simply have modal verbs and modal verb structure to rely on, but you can see just how important it is that we are still able to drill down into the different angles and actually conjugate verbs. So if you're having trouble there or getting it wrong, you need to go back and redo those modules. You need to practice it more. Here's paragraph 4. This is our first time in Spain, and we are in love with the food, the people, and the culture. We were planning to visit Italy again, but then we thought that we should be a little more adventurous, so we decided to visit Spain this year. Last night we were walking around the city when we found a beautiful little square full of music and restaurants. We spent the evening there drinking wine and enjoying our time together. So let's go to our vocabulary. The first time is primera vez, so la primera vez. Then to be in love with would be enamorado de. It almost reminds you of the word to be enamored by in English, so enamorado de. Now if you are a female saying this, you will end it in an A, so let's put that in. Enamorada de. Then the word for food is comida, culture is cultura, to plan is planear, Italy, Italia. The word for then is luego. The phrase a little more, un poco más. And then adventurous. This can again either be aventurero, so we have aventurero, or aventuera. Then the word for year is año. This phrase around the city right here is por la ciudad. The word for little is pequeño or pequeña, and the square, meaning like the town square, is la plaza. The word for full can either be lleno or llena, and music is la música. Then restaurants is restaurantes. You just change the pronunciation really. Now to spend time, we're right about here, is to pass time. So we use the verb pasar. And then for evening, you can just say nighttime. So la noche. Then the verb to enjoy, we're here, is disfrutar. And it's going to be followed by de. And then the word for together, juntos. So quite a lot of vocabulary there. Give it your best shot. Try to translate it. All right, so reading through it, it would be, this is our first time. Esta es nuestra primera vez en España. Y we are in love with the food. So estamos for we are, and then enamorados because we're referring to we. So the full phrase would be y estamos enamorados de la comida, la gente, y la cultura. Even though we have the word with here in English, it's important to disregard that. In Spanish, it's going to always be enamorados de. Now we have we were planning. So estábamos planeando visitar Italia otra vez. But then would be pero luego we thought that we should be. So this is not we were thinking, but we thought. In other words, we had that thought. This is the simple past. So to think is pensar, and in the past we thought would be pensamos. That we should be a little bit more or a little more adventurous. Now this is referring to identity, because you can be described as an adventurous person or an adventurous couple in general. So we have pero luego pensamos que deberíamos ser un poco más aventureros. Again, we have aventurero, but because we are still referring to we, aventureros. After that, we have so we decided. This again is the simple past. Así que decidimos visitar España este año. Then we have last night we were walking around the city. So anoche estábamos caminando por la ciudad. When we found, this is an event, right? We found something. Cuando encontramos. Now here it says a beautiful little square, and that is very common or a common phrasing in English. But in Spanish, the way that they would express that sequence would be a small and beautiful square. Now it's important to focus on the noun, which is the square, la plaza. So it's classified as a feminine noun, and that is going to affect a lot of other things around it. So, cuando encontramos, a small would be una pequeña and beautiful y hermosa plaza. So, una pequeña y hermosa plaza. Both of these descriptions ending in A, so pequeña and hermosa, because we are referring to la plaza. Now this next word again, full, can be either lleno or llena, but we're still referring to the fact that the square, la plaza, is full of music and restaurants. So this will be llena de música y restaurantes. You can see just how intricate Spanish grammar can get at times. This is why it's very important that we take our time, think things out properly, and go slowly. Then in the last sentence we have, we spent the evening there. So, pasamos la noche allí, tomando vino y disfrutando de, right? Because it's followed by de. So, disfrutando de nuestro tiempo juntos. So, pause again and retry the translation on your own. Let's read through it again from start to finish, and again I'll do it as though I were thinking it out step by step. Esta es. It has to be esta because I'm referring to la primera vez. So, esta es nuestra primera vez en España. Y estamos enamorados de la comida, la gente y la cultura. Estábamos planeando visitar Italia otra vez, pero luego pensamos que deberíamos ser un poco más aventureros. Entonces, decidimos visitar España este año. Anoche estábamos caminando por la ciudad cuando encontramos una pequeña y hermosa plaza llena de música y restaurantes. Pasamos la noche allí tomando vino y disfrutando de nuestro tiempo juntos. Let's change the angle to I. So it reads, this is my first time in Spain and I'm in love with the food, the people and the culture. I was planning to visit Italy again, but then I thought that I should be a little more adventurous. So I decided to visit Spain this year. Last night, I was walking around the city when I found a beautiful little square full of music and restaurants. I spent the evening there drinking wine and enjoying the music. Try to translate it. Esta es mi primera vez en España y estoy enamorado o enamorada de la comida, la gente y la cultura. Estaba planeando visitar Italia otra vez, pero luego pensé que debería ser un poco más aventurero o aventurera. Así que, o entonces, decidí visitar España este año. Anoche estaba caminando por la ciudad cuando encontré una pequeña y hermosa plaza llena de música y restaurantes. Pasé la noche allí, tomando vino y disfrutando de la música. Alright, so here's paragraph 5. I always find it difficult to buy presents for others. It's even worse when I leave it until the last minute. So this year I decided to buy everything early. I already know what I'm going to buy for my family, but I need more time to decide what I'm going to buy for my friends. I just spoke with my brother on the telephone and he is planning to do the same. While we were talking, my sister arrived and she asked us if we would like to have dinner with her tonight. She has some news she would like to share with us. So vocabulary-wise, we have the word for always, which is siempre. And this next phrase, find it difficult. In Spanish, they won't put in the it. They'll simply say find difficult. So the verb is encontrar, but when you conjugate into encontrar, the sound changes. So you get the sound of encuentro. This would be I find encuentro difícil. Then we have the word for present, which is regalo. It's el regalo. And for others, you can say para otros or para los demás. In this translation, we'll stick with para otros. Then even worse, this is going to be aún peor, aún peor. And the verb to leave is dejar. The word for last is último or última. Notice the accent, the stress over the U. And then this phrase here, everything early. You might be tempted to say todo temprano, so temprano for early, but it's much more natural to use todo con tiempo, everything with time. Then we have already, which is simply ya. And just like siempre, this will go at the front of the sentence. Then for brother or sister, you have hermano or hermana. And on the phone would be por teléfono. So we're right about here on the telephone, por teléfono. We already know the verb to plan from the last translation, planear. And the same would be lo mismo, which is here. Then the verb to ask is preguntar. And some news is algunas noticias. Finally, we have the verb to share, which is compartir. Pause now and give the translation your best shot. So let's read through it. We have, I always find it difficult. This will be literally always I find difficult. So siempre encuentro difícil comprar regalos para otros. It's even worse. Es aún peor when I leave it. Here we have to conjugate into the present tense. So the verb is dejar. So I leave would be dejo. So es aún peor cuando lo dejo hasta el último minuto. So this year, así que este año, decidí comprar todo con tiempo, everything with time. Next we have I already know. So I know is sé, but the word already comes at the front of the sentence. So ya sé, already I know what I'm going to buy for my family. Now this what carries the meaning of the thing that I'm going to buy for my family. So we're going to use lo que. You can see the same lessons repeating themselves through the translations. So ya sé lo que voy a comprar para mi familia. This is all modal verb structure. But I need more time, pero necesito más tiempo to decide. This is implying this to in order to decide what I'm going to buy for my friends. So, pero necesito más tiempo para decidir. The thing that I'm going to buy for my friends. Lo que voy a comprar para mis amigos. Now we have more modal verb structure. So I just spoke with my brother. Acabo de hablar con mi hermano on the telephone por teléfono. And he is planning y está planeando hacer lo mismo. Now we have the past progressive while we were talking. So, mientras estábamos hablando, this thing happened. My sister arrived. Mi hermana llegó. And then another piece of action happened. She asked us something. So the verb is preguntar. So she asked would be preguntó. She asked us. Nos preguntó if we would like to have dinner with her tonight. This is all modal verb structure. So, si nos gustaría, if it would be pleasing to us. Si nos gustaría cenar con ella esta noche. Now, she has, tiene. She has some news. Tiene algunas noticias that she would like to share with us. You could obviously leave the word that in or out here in English, but whenever it's implied, you must put it in Spanish. So, tiene algunas noticias que she would like, le gustaría, to share, compartir con nosotros. Just as before, pause again and try the translation once more on your own. So let's go through it from start to finish. So, siempre encuentro difícil comprar regalos para otros. Es aún peor cuando lo dejo hasta el último minuto. Entonces, así que este año decidí comprar todo con tiempo. Ya sé lo que voy a comprar para mi familia, pero necesito más tiempo para decidir lo que voy a comprar para mis amigos. Acabo de hablar con mi hermano por teléfono y está planeando hacer lo mismo. Mientras estábamos hablando, mi hermana llegó y nos preguntó si nos gustaría cenar con ella esta noche. Tiene algunas noticias que le gustaría compartir con nosotros. We'll change angles now to the viewpoint of she. So she always finds it difficult. The sound here will be encuentra. Remember in the last one for I find was encuentro, but she finds encuentra. So she always finds it difficult to buy presents for others. It's even worse when she leaves it until the last minute. So this year she decided to buy everything early. She already knows what she's going to buy for her family, but she needs more time to decide what she's going to buy for her friends. She just spoke with her mother on the telephone and she is planning to do the same. While they were talking, her brother arrived and asked them If they would like to have dinner with him tonight, he has some news he would like to share with them. Pause and try to translate it. Siempre encuentra difícil comprar regalos para otros. Es aún peor cuando lo deja hasta el último minuto. Así que este año decidió comprar todo con tiempo. Ya sabe lo que va a comprar para su familia, pero necesita más tiempo para decidir lo que va a comprar para sus amigos. Acaba de hablar con su mamá por teléfono y ella está planeando hacer lo mismo. Mientras estaban hablando, su hermano llegó y les preguntó si les gustaría cenar con él esta noche. Tiene algunas noticias que le gustaría compartir con ellas.